This is Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
I want to go back to, I guess, Democratic National Convention. I'm just thinking about, I have not been watching it. I've been watching highlights and reading things about it, but I know that they said George Floyd's brother spoke yesterday to open it up. And I'm thinking about 4 years ago with the Mothers of the Movement, when they had the Democratic Party using black pain to exploit for votes. They had all the mothers of like people like, I think, Mike Brown, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin come on stage 4 years ago to talk about, vote Democrat. And we have yet 4 years later, where is the thing to help black folks in terms of legislation to protect our civil and human rights? I mean, black folks, you just passed an anti-lynching bill or whatever. You got black folks hanging for
anti-lynch bill. It doesn't mention lynching anywhere in there.
I agree with you.
It is,
but you had black folks recently hanging
because all it is a pedophile, gay promoting document, and that's what they did. They used that black pain to get elected. And then as soon as they got in there, they ignored their black constituents. And what they did do is use their positions to promote the gay agenda. Now, 50 years ago, I heard the nascent LGBT thing that really was not in existence at that time. They were planning and pledging to join both parties and create confusion. So behind the smoke screen of confusion, they could be busy little beavers doing what they wanted to do for the LGBT crowd. Now, when we had that government shutdown, it wasn't shut down. Those committees had special sessions where they were trying to draft all of this gay legislation while the rest of the country suffered because it was a mess being engendered by the refusal to cooperate. The Democratic Party over the last 3.5 years has not come up with a damn thing out of their democratically controlled House except gay nonsense. Not anything to deal with the conditions of black people. Nothing. Not one thing. When they had Obama in office, 8 years, they did absolutely nothing. So this is 11.5 years of nothing. Hell, the Bush administration gave more to black folk than we've seen over the 8 years of the Obama administration. And actually, Trump has done more in terms of tangibles than anybody since LBJ. So we're worried about black people are worried about, he said he grabbed the pussy and he's bad-mouthed some people that needed to be bad-mouthed. They're more worried about that than they are about whether or not he actually delivers anything to them. I find it incredibly stupid.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about George Floyd. I'm thinking about, they talking about anti-lynching. You had several black folks hanging from trees and other apparatuses in this year since George Floyd was killed. I mean, black folks hanging in front of courthouses, cameras not working. There's Robert Fuller out in California, another brother out there in California hanging near a library. Cameras never working. Folks hanging in front of schools.
And not one damn word about that in
the all this year, Judge. All this year. And they all suicide. Everything is suicide.
Word about it. And the bill that is a gay rights bill, the Equality Act, says nothing about lynching or murdering black folk. Not one single word. The only mention of black folk in there is remotely by, it says insert in front of race or insert after the word race in the existing Title VII legislation and other stuff under the Civil Rights Act of 1964 as amended. So it's a charade. It's a bait and switch thing. So they count on the fact that people now want everything in 5 to 15 second sound bites instead of something long. They'll listen to this kind of thing where somebody's talking, but they won't read it.
Yeah, you said that too. And also, we think about interest. We talked about Breonna Taylor before, and I started to reassess that situation just from talking to you and thinking about it. I said, if these guys were really corrupt monster cops, I would kill all of them. Why would I leave the boyfriend alive? And I controlled the story.
See,
You know
let
what
me
I'm saying?
explain the dialogue on that. They're getting the public all hyped up, worked up. The leader of the
Very
Black Power
emotional.
organization.
Yeah.
He's talking about burning down Cleveland, which will bring all kinds of surveillance and
You said Cleveland or
infiltration and
Louisville? You talking
ruin
about
what he's
Cleveland?
trying to do.
Wow. Okay.
But let me say this. Here's what's going on for those who didn't hear the other podcast. Breonna Taylor is an unfortunate death brought about by negligence. There's no criminality involved in this. First off, let's take the cops. They've got a sworn duty to enforce the law, and amongst other requirements, that means you have to serve warrants. They get a warrant faxed to them. Somebody's negligence causes the wrong address to be put on it, just like I did with 1981 versus 9981. All right? That is going to lead to them going to the wrong house. The information that the suspect has already been apprehended negligently is not conveyed to them so they can call off the raid. They have information conveyed to them that the suspect is likely to be armed and dangerous, all right? So when you're serving an armed and dangerous person an arrest warrant to take him into custody, not search, you know there is a chance that he will resist forcibly. So when they get in the house, what do they get met by? Gunfire. So what do? You see it in the movies. They shoot back.
Right.
You know, Bad Boys Part 3. You know, Will Smith and company. They shoot it out with the bad guys. That's the reality. The movie's got that right. And fortunately for the guy who opens fire, he's not hit. And about 25, 30 rounds get fired. And unfortunately, 7 of them penetrated the sheetrock in the apartment and killed Breonna Taylor, who was still in bed. The guy that opened fire was in his home, and he had the right to defend himself and anybody in it under the castle doctrine. So he opens fire on the police. They take him into custody, check him out, but they release him 2 weeks later without charge. Why? Because he committed no crime. So the guy that opened fire, that induced the gunfight, committed no crime, and the people who commenced the return fire committed no crime, and Breonna Taylor dies due to negligence. That's like you're driving down the highway in the winter, and all of a sudden you hit a patch of sheet ice, and everybody gets to sliding, and somebody gets killed. There's no murder. There's a death, maybe 2 or 3, but it's unfortunate. Maybe somebody makes a negligent left-hand turn. Somebody dies, there's a massive civil recovery if somebody has insurance, liability insurance, but there's no crime. Maybe a left turn ticket, but I mean, you know, nobody gets charged with murder. See, these things happen. There are all sorts of negligent homicides, which are the leading causes of non-natural cause death. Negligence happens all the time. You know, you drive down the freeways here. 300 says, buckle up, you know, don't become a fatality. 340 deaths in Tennessee last year, 361 this year, you know. All those deaths are just like Breonna Taylor. It's negligence or accident.
Now,
so,
you know,
go ahead.
Now, yeah, you compare and contrast that what happened down in Fort Worth, Dallas area with that sister that nobody talks about no more, the Jefferson girl, the Attn Jefferson. Now that nobody talks about.
Criminal.
Right. That was criminal. It was horrible.
There was no justification. He said hands up, and then as soon as he says hands up, boom, he shoots her.
Right.
You know what that was?
What?
This guy was so focused on getting a trophy for his den wall. That should have been weeded out by appropriate psychological test and evaluation. It wasn't. That should have been part of the recruitment or the hiring process. This guy was also probably scared, so they need to deal with the fear index. I grew up in South Central LA, and I know that the people you had to worry about were the ones that were scared. The scariest dude on the scene was the one that popped the cap. Hey man, what you talking about, man? Look, man, it's just some BS, man. Lighten up, man. I ain't gonna put on nothing on you, man. I was just talking. No, man. See, you gonna do something to me, man. I ain't gonna do nothing to you, man. The dude said he ain't gonna do nothing. Why don't we leave him? No, man. This dude gonna kill me, man. Look, dude, man, I ain't gonna do nothing to you, man. Why you say what you say? I didn't say shit, man. As you said, man. Fuck this shit, man. Boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Man, why you shoot the dude? Man, he wasn't doing nothing, man. Why you shoot him? So you scared this dude out there. That's who you got to worry about.
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot of times. You also have a phenomenon that I've observed in that some of the people who have recently got out of the military had assignments that basically put them on logistics or command and control and that kind of thing. And they never got to put the red dot on somebody and squeeze the trigger and watch him drop or flinch.
Yeah.
And they wanted to have that experience, so they become police so they can get it. They want their scalp or their trophy head on their den wall. And you need to weed that kind out. And we don't.
Is it hard though? Is it hard to do that? I mean,
no, there's some psychological testing that you can do to determine that. And there's another kind of thing too. Some folk can tell you how hard it is the first time they kill somebody from being in the military or being a cop. But it gets easier. For some people, it gets entirely too easy.
Is that a psychopath? We label that person a psychopath then?
Yeah. In fact, the military trains its officers to recognize that. Say, if you have somebody that you need to take the sentry out and knife him in the neck or the back, get the family man. He's likely to be more stable and not like it, but do it because it's necessary.
Right.
Never use somebody who enjoys it, because you will create a freak. All right. Popeye Doyle. That's a real character. In the movie French Connection, he featured. There was a real Popeye Doyle. This guy was in the New York Police Department, a detective, and he killed 40-some people.
Wow. 40-some people as a detective? As a police officer? Wow, that's a lot. That's a
But you see, he's a character in a movie.
Okay.
To a great extent, he was the inspiration for Dirty Harry, played by Clint Eastwood. Now, how many people did Dirty Harry kill?
A whole bunch of people. That's he a police officer though. That's crazy.
Yeah, and see, all of these rookie cops, still like anybody else, they get influenced by the movie. So here's Dirty Harry. He's a hero. You look at CSI and all the cop shows. How many do they kill every week on these shows? They kill a bunch of folk. Cops, real cops, don't have that. I know a lot of cops retired never had to pull their gun on somebody in 30 years of service.
Yeah, I know. I talked to a couple of them about that. That's interesting. But in the movie, they always have the gun out. Even if they have to question somebody, the gun is always out.
And that's what the cops feed on, and that's why they join up.
So you think people have a point about canceling some of these cop shows? You think there's a point to be made to not have these cop shows on the air like this then? You should take them off the air?
You can't. First Amendment. I would say it would be a good thing, but I'm not going to sit there and censor it, because that's suppressing the First Amendment. You should have something that counters it. But you see, these guys that call the shots in Hollywood, they don't know what the crap they're doing. They have no goddamn clue. Somebody tells them. Somebody sends in a script. The guy that makes the decision hasn't even read the damn thing. Charlie, go read this and tell me what the hell you think. Well, boss, it's kind of good, John. You know, like, I think maybe we can do something with it. All right, let's do something with it. And he hadn't even read it. He doesn't know what's in it. I won $100,000 bet against 10 executives, 10 grand each against my 100K. And you know what it was? I said, the next 10 movies you release from Paramount, I'll tell you or predict which one's going to be a flop and which one's going to be a hit. And only one of them was going to be a hit, because guess which one that was? That was Will Smith in what was it? He played Hancock.
Yeah,
He
okay,
was
yeah,
a
definitely. That was a
god,
blockbuster.
and
Yeah, I
his
remember that.
ex-wife
Yeah.
was a goddess, you know, and so on and so forth. And I said, that's the only one that's going to be a hit because that's the only one that has any damn thing to say about people. See, stories are not stories if they don't have a point. You got all this garbage about fine lighting or a novel technique, or you put the story out and there's no damn point to it. So I won $100K. I put up $100 grand against 10 grand for each of these executives and won $100 grand on the bet. How'd you do that? I just said there's a classic formula, whether you're talking about a Greco-Roman play from 2,000 years ago, you're talking about Shakespeare from 500 years ago, or you're talking about a John Wayne movie from the 30s. They all have a point, and you don't have a damn point to these things. The only one that did was Hancock, and Will Smith pulled the hell out of that.
Yeah, that was deep though. Name of Charlize Theron. What I know about her now is just horrible. She's a monster. She's a real monster.
A monster.
She's an enemy of black man. She is like Kamala Harris. She's a black man's nightmare.
Yeah. See, look at her. Charlize Theron. She takes these black boys and she turns them into girls. So she says they don't have to put up with the horrible thing of being black men. When they grow up, they can be black sissies. Now, don't get me wrong. There are gay folk that are all right. They keep what they do in their bedrooms.
And they can fight too. Some of these cats, they can fight. They can defend themselves.
And see, yeah, Julius Caesar was bisexual, and so was Alexander the Great, but they were some real live badasses.
Yeah, they're warriors, yeah.
Now, that comes about by something that I found out with these psychological tests when I was on the bench, and I dealt with pedophiles a lot when they did stuff that required me to sentence them. Also, some people that I was putting on probation. As a policy under Tennessee law, the trial judge could order anybody that he's going to sentence to be subjected to a psych evaluation as part of the sentencing. I did. And there are two types of homosexuals. The type that wants to be the opposite sex and the type that hates the opposite sex.
Yeah.
The type that's a woman hater, they can be real down. You know, they're the football coaches that tell their boys not to mess with women because it saps their strength.
Right.
A.L.'s Angels. They're career military guys.
Right.
There was a classic homosexual of that type in the comic strips every day. Beatles Bailey. Sarge was gay, but he was a woman hater. They scared the hell out of him. But he was a celibate gay because he never engaged in sexual activity. He just engaged in none because he was not attracted to women. They scared him.
I didn't even know that. I used to love Beetle Bailey, but you did that?
See, there are a lot of homosexuals who are celibate and they never practiced the homosexuality. They hate the opposite sex. That's these bull dykes, diesel dykes. Some of whom deal with the women, some of whom just don't deal with anybody at all. And there are a whole lot of women who are married to a whole lot of guys who have husbands who say, man, I got more sex when I was in high school than I do now, and I'm a married man. My wife won't give me any. See, not all, but a lot of those, they just don't like the opposite sex, but they go along with the convention and they don't indulge in sex at all. Vice versa. Joe, what's wrong with my husband? I mean, do I look that bad? Damn, baby, you're looking good. Well, he just doesn't seem to want any. What's wrong? Well,
you know, like I'm thinking about Andrew Gillum. With a guy named Gillum or Gullum down in Florida, like with the male escort. I'm saying it's funny how when it's a homosexual thing, it's not a sex scandal. He got substance abuse problems, but he's caught with a woman. It's like it'd be like the biggest thing. It'll be like Clinton and Lewinsky.
Except if the woman is supporting your cause, like Kamala Harris. You don't talk about it.
Right. It's crazy.
Like Barack Obama, they wanted Obama so bad that the papers did not carry the fact that in 5 counts of a long multi-count RICO indictment against an organized crime figure, he's mentioned by name. This is 2007 when it goes down. and no mention of it in the mainstream press while he's running for president.
Is that Tony Resco? You talking about that Tony Resco stuff? I don't know what the guy is. Isn't it? See, the Chicago gangster town, though, Judge. You know, that's normal. That's business as usual in Chicago. You lived in Chicago.
But I'm saying you are a candidate for president, and you are mentioned in 5 counts of Tony Resco's indictment for organized crime, and the press doesn't pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, it sounds like a gangster name to me. I agree with that. He sounds like a gangster to me. Like he's our central caster from Hollywood. Tony Resco, that's a gangster name.
And your president,
he played a part too.
Is mentioned as a co-acting party by name in 5 counts of the indictment.
But
and then Resco had a mansion. He was advised, well, his lawyers were advised that they could take him in Monday afternoon and surrender him. Bambi was one of those lawyers. On Monday morning, Tony Resco signs a quitclaim deed, deeding his interest in the family property over to his wife. On Tuesday, she and the Obamas meet. Wednesday, she signs the documents deeding the house over for no charge to the Obamas, and they file it on Thursday. And on the deeds, it reflects that $1 was exchanged. Hell, and the feds don't go after Tony Resco's family home like they do every other goddamn gangster that I've represented in federal court years back on a RICO indictment. Oh, hell.
Sometimes it take years. They want to build a stronger case to make sure it's airtight, right? Maybe Obama's time is coming with the FBI lawyer. You know, you hear about the indictments, whatever they handed down. What do you think about that?
I think it's something that needs to be investigated. The other thing that I find interesting is that these fools had this investigation into Trump for the impeachment stuff. What did I tell you? Be careful what you ask for. You just might get it.
Yeah.
And they kept going into it, and they got it. And what comes out of that is that Biden on a C-SPAN thing recorded, which I've seen, he says, I guess I committed some crimes in office. Well, what is that? He said, I guess it would be bribery, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And he explains how he brought pressure on the Ukrainian officials and threatened to withhold, what was it,
Was it a billion? Was it
dollars? No, $38 billion or something like that. And loan guarantees to the Ukraine if they didn't get rid of this guy. Well, since he didn't have the constitutional authority, but that was delegated to him by the president, and that says that Obama was complicit. So, by the way, see, what did Trump do? They wasted all that time trying to get articles of impeachment, which they did, but Article 2, Section 4 of the Constitution says the president and vice president may be removed upon impeachment and conviction for 1, bribery, 2, treason, and 3, high crimes or misdemeanors in office. And they returned articles of impeachment saying that he abused his authority and he obstructed Congress. Well, there's no such criminal act as obstruction of Congress. And every time a president vetoes a bill, that's obstruction of Congress. That's politics. So that's no crime. It's not bribery. It's not treason.
But you know, they try to tie it's like Trump did that, not Biden. How the media had to try to make it like it was Trump. That was his albatross, Ukraine stuff.
See, they go digging into Trump trying to get something on Trump, and they dug up crap on their own guy. So if I was Trump, I'd throw all of this stuff that came out in the impeachment proceedings right back in their face.
I love he does it his own way. He does. You know, it's funny
because abused his authority. The Constitution gave him exclusive and unlimited authority to do what he did. And if he wanted to have it written in the law, he had to get the approval of the Senate, which was Republican dominated. So when the Republicans got it, they dominated the Senate. The Senate tries the case. And that's just like coming in front of a judge saying, Your Honor, defense moves for a directed verdict or for an immediate dismissal, taking everything that the state has claimed in its indictment that does not consist of a crime. It's called a demurrer under common law, or judgment upon the pleadings, summary judgment on the pleadings in civil law. You look at it and say, oh yeah, let's take everything they're alleging. Hell, it doesn't commit any of the offenses of high crimes, treason, high crimes and misdemeanors, treason, or bribery. So it's out of there. It doesn't do any damn thing. And that shows you nobody in the U.S. House of Representatives had the integrity to look over the Constitution and see what the hell it said. And then, is this a crime? No. Is it treason? No. Is it bribery? No. Then what the hell are we doing? But you brought all this stuff out on Biden.
But you know, Biden,
Obama.
Biden, like, to me, he like Tony Soprano in Waste Management. The one thing about Biden with the Ukraine thing, he nothing but a gangster to me. But you know, I don't believe Biden will last a month. He be like William Harrison. He might last a month or two in the White House, but he won't be there for a whole year if they get in.
That's what I'm saying. He's going to make his mark in history by being responsible for the first woman in American history, an Indian American being
not a black American, Indian American, Asian American.
That's a slap in the face to all those white gals that an Indian American becomes U.S. president before one of them does. And the vice president will be Nancy Pelosi, and both of them are from San Francisco.
I don't think the white women are going to vote for it, though. They're going to go for that ticket. It's going to be like they're going to support Trump again.
I hope they don't. See, let me say this. I'm in my 70s, okay? I'm good for 70. I ain't bad.
Oh, you better than Joe right now. You look better than Joe Biden. You should be president.
But here's what I'm talking about. All of the women I've talked to who are in their 40s, they say, I've worked for a woman boss before, and I'll be goddamn if I want to do it again. That was a horrible experience. I'll never work for another woman boss. And to have a woman boss of the country, hell no.
It ain't gonna happen for a while.
Why that, baby? Why you say that about, say, well, we get emotional, we have our periods, and we're used to being excused for being moody and bitching somebody out. But when you're in charge, you don't need to be that way. You need to focus.
You know who told me that too, Judge? You told me the same thing. You know who told me that too? What you just said?
Tell me.
Charles Evers. I talked to him about it. He said the same thing you just said, almost verbatim. You know what I'm saying? He rests in peace. They don't talk about Charles Evers because he was a man, but that's another story. But he said the same thing you just said.
Let's talk about John Lewis. Let's talk about John Lewis.
Everybody talk about John Lewis. Go ahead. Let's talk about John Lewis.
Well, let me tell you the negative. She is a historical figure, so that doesn't count about not speaking negatively of the dead.
It is what it is.
Speak negatively of Adolf Hitler and another bunch of charlatans running around. I can remember my dad and his buddies or my uncles, whatever, and they're talking to friends and they're saying, we can't get in this civil rights thing. All these people in charge, they're kind of, and I'm going, what's that mean, Dad? Well, when you get a little older, I'll tell you, and they're talking about, we just got through shooting up Germans and getting shot at, and Chi-Coms in Korea, those that went there. And I'll be damned if some redneck is going to raise his hand up like he's going to hit me without me taking that hand off. And they said, how can they do that down on their knees getting their ass whooped by these rednecks? Basically until some more rednecks felt guilty about it. And that turned a lot of black people off, but the history that is recorded about the civil rights movement does not deal with that repugnance by ordinary mainstream blacks against their people voluntarily getting their ass whooped. That's like going to the lynching. Oh, yes, I want to be a martyr. I'm here to be lynched. And see, John Lewis and Bayard Rustin. Yeah. You know about Bayard Rustin. See, John Lewis was getting buggered by Bayard Rustin. That was his punk stuff. Bayard Rustin was influencing Dr. King. And then when it came out when I was in, I may have been in high school. I think it was 60, 61. out in L.A., Byron Rustin was out there and he got busted by LAPD in the back seat of a car getting sodomized by one white boy while he was sucking another one's dick. One dick up his butt and one here in his mouth. And they arrested him. And everybody says, see, this is why we can't be involved in this mess. This is ridiculous. Dad, is that what you guys were talking about? Yeah, that is. So you see, you had mainstream blacks who were not going along with his nonviolent crap. And two, they didn't want to be dealing with something that had so many homosexuals dealing with leadership positions and influencing what was done. Now, in the South, that stuff didn't get around. And in the South, the church held sway. And the churches have it endemic in the black church, the preacher getting a little bit of booty as well as a little bit of pussy, you know. And you see all these gay boys up there dancing around out of tune with the music, no rhythm, you know, while services are going on because they get happy. But that is what it is. But that had a very negative impact. But you see, the press carried that as the civil rights movement, just like they call this the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
And you can see from the demonstrations, and you know yourself, there's no black folk getting turned out to the streets.
Especially in Portland, of all places. They know black people in Portland, hell. I've been to Portland. They got no black folks. Maybe 12 black folks in Portland.
Animals. That's what they're doing. These little ratchet white cupcakes are saving animals. And Antifa. Right. See, That's
Soros, yeah, definitely.
See, but I've got some connections. You know what's behind Antifa? Not just Soros, but Soros' funding is the Anti-Defamation League, that Jewish thing. See, this is an opportunity for them to get good cover, to get back at the Nazis, the skinheads, Aryan Nation, the Klan, and everybody that's been ragging them out under cover of blackness. It's a smokescreen, literally.
Wow.
You know, you look at this thing where pictures are out there after the riot takes place, where several days before, stone, bricks, and concrete blocks were strategically placed. And they've got, strangely enough, these communications gear. And one that interestingly illustrated this is a recent picture of this thing in Portland where all of these Antifa types had identical plywood shields with the same insignia on it, and the same helmet, and the same body armor. You know, that bespeaks a degree of organization that is not typical of a spontaneous demonstration or riot. So you have to wonder where all of this came from, and the antecedent or the predicate would be Anti-Defamation League, the Jewish Defense League, that whole network, which is hooked up with Israel. And see, the Mossad has a presence here. So Soros is funding all of this, and this is an opportunity to get back at people who've done them harm without having to take credit for it. You know, the old saying, there's so much you can get done if you don't have to take credit for it. These colored folk, these biped animals from Africa that got imported to America that are out there, you know, or we got to save them. That's our cause. Oh my God, we have to save the bipeds. The African bipeds are being really mistreated.
I mean, we always been mistreated over here. I never, you know, I just say like I talk about the mothers of the movement, and 4 years later, you got George Floyd's brother talking about, you know, help us, but help us with what? It's not acknowledge that we exist, that our pain is real. Like, you know, Marcus Garvey's birthday was yesterday. He was a Jamaican who came to America, became a leader, and he represents black interests. But, you know, we got 100 years later, who we got now running for vice president, and she's not even claiming black. But black folks, in particular, black women love her. And she look how she did black folks in California. I mean, under the color of law.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I had my last set of in-laws were from the Bay Area or lived in the Bay Area. They hated her guts.
For good reasons, though. Look at her prosecutorial record. Like you said, she's a career prosecutor.
I've never seen this before. You know, family of murder victims, you know, they are all rah, rah, rah for the prosecution.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, she's responsible for the families of some murder victims saying, look, this is enough. You're trying to turn this into a political football, Miss Kamala Harris. Back the hell off. And then the other thing that's interesting, let's talk about this as far as black folk are concerned and the sisters.
Yeah.
They could claim some credit through Michelle Obama to the last White House, but this one, Biden and his spouse, you never see her, but that's two Caucasians. Coming as guests, Kamala Harris and her white Jewish husband. That's two more Caucasians. And you get, like we've been talking about, Joe Benchwarmer, third string, bumbling Biden, who always throws interceptions or fumbles the ball. He resigns, and you get Kamala Harris, Caucasian, Indo-Aryan, and her Jewish white husband. And then you get Nancy Pelosi and I guess her girlfriend or something. You ain't got no black folk up in the White House. Still.
Oh, don't Kamala Harris's chief of staff, Haitian, who's a lesbian.
Oh, yeah,
they put that before she was a Haitian. She's lesbian Haitian. That's a lesbian Haitian.
Lesbian Haitian. Lesbo Haitian.
That's interesting.
See, it started.
Yeah.
And guess what Biden promised to do it? I'll give him this. He has never broken his promises.
So he told the truth yesterday.
Follow in the footsteps of those racists, Wallace and Stennis and Thurman and all of that bunch.
The Hall of Fame.
So what he promised this year, he said he promised he was going to either have a homosexual or a lesbian for his running mate. You notice Kamala has no children.
Nope.
Maybe hubby is just economic convenience and she swings both ways and she's got some beaver that she's got on the side, you know.
I mean, her chief of staff.
The pussy. She don't grab the pussy like Trump. She munches the pussy. Like Hillary has a reputation for doing.
Anthony Weiner's wife, her and Hillary was really close, right?
Well, you know, Hillary came out the closet back 1967 when she was Hillary Rodman, but they put her back in. She was at an all-girls college, and she was, interesting enough, chairwoman of the Republican Party Young Republicans chapter at Wesley for 3 whole years. Now she's the Democratic Party front runner. You know, last time she was the presidential candidate, a proven loser, but, you know, they had a problem with Bernie Sanders, and now they got a fake Negro that they nominated to be vice president behind somebody that's a long-term racist that promised to remain a racist and promised he would have lesbian or homosexual for his running mate.
You know what? I think now, as you saying now, that they might lose California, the Democrats this round. I mean, it may lose California. You think that's possible?
Yeah, it's possible because, interestingly enough, California is now 54% Hispanic. Now, you would expect them to be anti-Trump, but let me tell you, the last time I was in L.A., we pulled up in a gas station. You know what was going on?
What?
Hey, man, follow why you gotta go this, man. I'm legal, man. You legal. Why we gotta go deal with these illegals, man? Breaking the law, man. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Follow there's some bullshit, man. Can't be sneaking across no goddamn border, man. Right. You know, we didn't sneak across. Why the hell they got to sneak across, man? They be just knocking down the plane, man.
Yep.
And by the way, they always think I'm half Mexican or something about that.
I can see that, Judge.
No habla español muy bien, señor. Que comprende mucho, you know. Habla inglés, man.
Yeah, Hispanics are conservative, though. They they about family.
Man, I don't understand shit, man. Talk some English to me, man. They ain't down there getting my ass blown away on some motherfucking mind trying to move dope, man. Fuck that shit.
That was too good. Joe, you need to be doing some voiceover work, man. You ain't sleeping on you, man.
Yeah, I know. They blackballed me. This is the California State Legislature. Senor, from the barrio of East Los Angeles, man, the chair recognize you.
Man.
Mr. Speaker, we got the problem, man. We got legislation that deal with some things going on that we need to deal with, man. Well, Mr. Representative from the barrio, what do you have to say, man? And then they go on like that. See it. Shit changes. And by the way, a warning to black people. I know all kinds of idiots running around hyped up on we can't do anything. Why try? Because of white supremacy. And no, we got to do it. Well, guess what? You ain't. Because in 25 to 30 years, it's too damn late. There will be no majority race in the United States. The biggest minority will be Hispanic. The second biggest minority will be traditional white. And the third largest minority, way down the scheme, will be black folk. And we damn well better do something right now about setting up some coalitions with these Mexicans. Because if you want to see what it's like, go to the penitentiary. You go visit, and on the yard over there in one corner, they got the Aryan Nation and the super white boys. Over here, you got black folk. Maybe you got a little break off group, the Nation, of Islam. And then you got the Mexicans over here. And the white boys and the black folk don't have too much fighting. It's the Mexicans and the black folk be trying to kick each other's ass. See, that crap in Chicago is Mayor Lightfoot up there, Lightfoot, excuse me. She took all this community development money and she gave it directly to some Hispanic street gangs, much to the dismay of the legitimate Hispanic leadership. So what you're looking at in Chicago with all this killing that the press is not telling you about is not so much this old time black on black killing. It's Hispanic street gangs killing black boys and black street gangs killing brown boys is hell. So we got to bring this together. Now we can work together. Remember the song, There Is a Rose in Spanish Harlem?
Yeah.
Black folk and Puerto Ricans get along real well. One of my good friends, Aida Rodriguez, funny Aida, she's beautiful sister, former model, formerly married to an NFL player that didn't pay child support, that she castigated on her radio show for a long time. She looks like an American black woman, a fine American black woman. But if you look at one of her siblings, he look like a white boy. You look at another one, he look like he's straight out of Africa. And they all got the same mom and dad. There's a bunch of them. So in Puerto Rico, you go over there where I have been, Virgin Islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas. You see a lot of this mix up where Hispanic Americans and black Americans get along, and in the same family, they have folk that look like Hispanic Americans, folk that look like black Americans, and they're all same mom, same dad, brothers and sisters in the same family, grew up under the same roof, eating at the same table.
I know some Puerto Ricans like that. Yeah.
Yeah. In Harlem, they had the Harlem Division in World War I, which was the Army's biggest division. Instead of 12 to 18,000, they had 22,000 folk in that division, where it was black Harlemites and Puerto Rican Harlemites all in. They got along together. They put them under the French military command, where they did some great things. Yeah. All right. Now, blacks and Hispanics can deal with each other. And the interesting thing about it is that I've seen instant acceptance that black people have got with Mexicans out of a street gang if they can habla Espanol, because they have mestizos, mulattoes, and all these, man, down in Mexico, man. The thing is, you got to habla Espanol. At least, man, you know somebody that habla, even if you know habla, no disrespect. But I've used that on many occasions, like, goddamn, man, I'm going to have to let all this shit hang out and go for what I know, man. It's gonna get hairy up in this EMF in a minute. Hey, CEO, Vato man, what's going on? Oh man, you know, and then everybody stop looking at you. This my hombre, man. This my Vatos, man. You talking about the rest of the folk with you, and everybody backs off and the tension evaporates.
Wow. I would actually just because I got to ask you because, you know, what is it with Willie Brown? Why is he still alive? Because, you know, they told him to stay off those planes on September 11th. And he's telling all this stuff about Kamala Harris and how he had this affair with her and all this stuff. How can he keep on living? Did he make a deal? Who he work for?
It's not as easy to kill somebody as they make out. See, most of the people that have been killed in the last 50 years, damn near everyone, nobody who is political has been killed. It's all this street gang shit. And the bottom line is just like when I represented all these pimps and hoes in Memphis 40 years ago. It's easy for a hoe to get off of being a hoe if she just keeps her ass off the hoe track, because the pimps will go find them on the hoe track, beat their ass, and take them back into the stable, whether they like it or not. So, baby, keep your ass off the hoe track. Well, the same thing if you keep yourself out of these questionable clubs and places where the thugs congregate, you'd be okay. Like some places I don't go just because I don't want the hassle. It's like, watch your back, but if you in there trying to party with the thugs, you know, you can get snuck up on. You come out the club, somebody is called, somebody is going to do the drive-by on your ass if they want to find you. But if you don't go these places, you're pretty much protected because they won't go certain other places. Now, the gay folk get jacked up. The folk that are into the rap thing and got this street cred bullshit going on where they're trying to get it, they get jacked up, but no political leaders get jacked up because there's none to jack up. We have had no black leadership for 50 years. John Lewis, he's not political leadership for black folk. He pushed everything gay right. He didn't do crap for black folk, not one time since he was in office. Same thing with that clown up in Baltimore that dropped dead. I remember looking at the Science Channel within the last year, and they are talking about, look at this. I've got on a hazmat suit and an insulated kayak with special disposable paddles because this water is so contaminated. We are trying to get warnings put up that this is a biohazard in this water here off of Baltimore shores that is so badly contaminated. Look at those young African-American kids actually out here trying to splash around in this water. And I've got on a hazmat suit. The congressman for this area, and they didn't mention his name, but it's obvious who they're talking about, seems to have a strangely close relationship with the polluters. So at every turn, he attacks any notifications, notices, or warnings that this whole area is a biohazard. What's his name? I forget, you know. I need to clean the memory banks like you do your computer, but I haven't quite figured out how to do that. So what's his name again?
Talking about the congressman?
Yeah, for Baltimore, late departed.
Oh, Elijah Cummings. Elijah Cummings, another no good snake. See, you know,
and see, this is the other thing. We need term limits. We need to get people, etc. They'd say this. Actually, the problem with term limits is, while it might be okay on the local level, on a national level, these people have your lives in their hands, and they need to have expertise in what they're doing. And if you term somebody out, even on the local level, hell, they're just learning what the devil they were supposed to be doing when they got in, when they term out, let alone how to do it. So the reason you have congressmen that people want to turn out is because everybody loves their own congressman. It's somebody else that has a congressman that's a no-good scoundrel.
Exactly.
You don't look at your own. Now, here's the thing. some areas we do have a problem, like Memphis, Tennessee. We've got Steve Cohen, who is Congressman for the 9th District. He's Jewish, he's gay, he's infirm. I think the most comprehensive legislation he's introduced was a resolution to mandate the use of paper straws only in the congressional cafeteria.
Wow. Wow.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
Nobody white or black in this area except Turley, Belts, and that group and Smith have gotten any damn thing out of Cohen. Hard to get in this, what is it, almost 90% black district. Well, he got in the first time because there were 14 black folk running in the Democratic primary and one white guy. He was the white guy. He became the Democratic nominee because he got that Cooper Young LGBT crowd and the Jewish crowd and some of the few whites in the district. They all voted for him. So out of the small number of votes that were cast for him, it was more than any one of the other 14 blacks got. So he becomes the Democratic Party candidate, and that means essentially you become the Democratic congressman from a Democratic district. And that's been the case. So he's been in there, and he's been beneficiary of the corrupt, hacked, deballed voting machines that the Department of Justice paid to replace 12 years ago, but which has been resisted by at least 3 black county commissioners who are Democrats over the last 12 years, and they're not the same ones because of term limitations. Most recently, acknowledged lesbian Tammy Sawyer in her early 30s has said, get over it, these voting machines are not going to be changed. She kind of ran for mayor, and her point was to make sure Doc Harrington didn't win. Actually, Black Blocs Inc. says that when they went over the machines, they found 3 extra candidate numbers in there that absorbed 64,000 votes that came from areas that should have been going for Harrington. They did. They just been hacked, and all you need to hack those machines is a smartphone.
So voting is the least important thing in politics, to be honest with you. Just laid out the case for it. They don't even count your votes half of the time, it seems.
Yeah, and that's what Trump is saying about these mail-in ballots.
Yeah, it's BS.
They are vast swaps, not just the absentee ballots. You go through changes to get those, and they're bona fide, and they get them because of the time thing they put on it. But they're big swaths of the United States that don't even have postal service. So how are you going to get your ballot? And how are you going to get that ballot you can't get back off? And I know how the Democratic Party is in league with the Republican Party locally because gay folk control, bisexual folk control both parties here, and they be butt busting and pussy licking amongst themselves. You know, that's their political right under the First Amendment. I support their right to do it. It's just we need to do something about that because the rest of us don't get off on who gets to piss in the girls' bathroom besides the girls. And now we've got this thing of this trans inmate who is a spokesperson for that tranny movement. Now it has been charged with multiple rapes of normal female inmates. You see, we've got another trans spokesperson who has been indicted on multiple rape counts by using his position as so-called a trans woman to get access to straight women that he's raped. See, so I showed you a picture of my granddaughter. I don't want some clown like that have me come back out of the grave to go take his head.
I understand,
now,
Judge.
I'm not anti-gay. More power to them. Like I said, what you do in your bedroom is your business. And I have had gay clients. I even got some awards from LGBT for being fastidiously neutral, fair, and impartial when somebody came in front of me and they happen to be gay. So it is my personal opinion that I do great service by being neutral, fair, and detached when I'm on a bench. When I'm off the bench, and hell, I'm retired. I've got a medical disability status on my law license. I'm not anxious to restore it because that gives folk an opportunity to get me in hot water that I have to answer to for saying things like I do.
Well,
I will tell you one reason why what you do in your bedroom is your own business.
Mm-hmm.
The time is 1980. I'm in front of a jury and a prospective jurors, and we're selecting a jury. It's in criminal court. I'm the defense lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my client is a gentleman who's never been in trouble with the law before. You'll hear that. We're going to put him on the stand. Maybe, maybe not. But you won't hear anything about it. My client was married. He and his wife broke up. There is this house that he acquired before he married her. They stayed married for about a 4-year period of time, and a circuit court ordered that he retain his home and that the estranged wife return all keys. She did. My client and the co-defendant, the lady sitting over there, hooked up his girlfriend and boyfriend, and they decided on a lunch break when they were out in the field to hook up at his house. She picked him up, drove him to his home in her car, parked around the corner. They both walked in, and they were about their business. Somewhat later, about 5 minutes later, it just happened that his estranged wife, with the key, she disobeyed circuit court by not turning into my client, used the key to go in. She walked in to get some things she wanted to retrieve, but she saw my client and the co-defendant down on the floor in the den. They were going down on each other. He was nibbling the beaver, and she was dealing with the lollipop.
Mm.
And the jury started laughing.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. They were 69ing on each other? But doesn't this carry 3 to 15 years? I said, yes, it did. It does. It's termed unnatural sex acts. Carries 3 to 15 years in the penitentiary in the state of Tennessee. And somebody said, but wait a minute. My wife, don't. You don't have to confess, sir. It's not necessary. But that, you got to be kidding. The judge said, with due respect, that is exactly what we are here for. The defendants are accused of engaging in unnatural sex acts. And yes, technically, Mr. Brown is telling you in layman's terms exactly what the charges are. He's charged with fellatio. She's charged with fellatio on him, and he's charged with cunnilingus on her, which they were allegedly doing, according to the indictment, simultaneously. He said, we're here to give somebody 3 to 15 years for doing a 69 on each other. So that this isn't a rape case. They were voluntarily. Yes, sir. That's exactly what we're here for. So the law got changed, but they were on trial for going down on each other, doing 69, consenting adults. They were in their 40s, and they were looking at 3 to 15 years in the state penitentiary. So, yes, I support gays being able to do whatever freak stuff they want to do in their bedrooms. Get your freak on. My problem is them coming through the door of my home, sitting in my living room, and doing in front of me, my sons, and my beautiful granddaughter something that will confuse them that doesn't need to be there, because that kind of stuff is supposed to be restricted to after 10 o'clock when adults are likely to be the only audience. But they've got kiddie shows from Doc McStuffins on where they're pushing this stuff on 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14-year-old children. Disney's got one right now where this 14-year-old girl goes into an alternate universe, and she's got this leering bisexual girl that's at what they call the prom, not prom, and she's going to seduce her. And they got this kid, 14, kissing another kid, same sex, lip locking for a children's audience. They don't even show straight characters with the tongues moving around in the cartoon representations as they go lip lock, and the other one has got her hands on this other one's behind. They don't show that on straight couples for children. Why are they doing that? You know, that the background for that is, remember when Mama said, if you don't go to church on Sunday, you can't go anywhere else the rest of the week. Well, that's the same thing. It's conditioning. See, that's what I object to, and that's why I have such a bad vibe about what they're doing. Other thing is, I was always fair and impartial when I was on the state bench. I didn't care. I even had gay employees. I still have gay employees, openly gay. But they don't like this stuff that I'm talking about either, because they say, hey, I had a good family experience. I like my mom and dad. This isn't supposed to be the thing. But you see, what we have is something different, because they're trying to change a long-term paradigm about the way men and women get along with each other. And they're trying to destroy the family in the process. So that is not a good thing. So I get to Hollywood, fair and impartial. I hadn't been there a month and a half, and they started to attack me, just like they got successfully to attack Bill Cosby. I was a bachelor, man. I'm 53 years old. Well, how old was I then? 51 years old. Man, I'm throwing down.
That's right.
Running, you know. I'm dancing with all these fine movie stars and soap opera stars. I'm having a good time. And then I found one sister that was going pretty good with. We're sitting down drinking wine, and she gets up and goes to the ladies' room. She comes back and says, you know that guy over there? And I said, yeah. So why? He offered me $2,000 in cash to say, you've been trying to feel on me. I said, damn. And he had something he wanted me to sign. I said, damn. So we went over and tracked down all of the women we could find that I danced with, and we got written statements from all of the ones we could find that this is what this guy had done. So both of us notarized the affidavit we put in the envelope, sealed, and I took to Human Resources because I knew what was coming. About a month later, one of the most insulting letters I've ever received was signed by 23 proud lesbians that had been forwarded to Human Resources.
I think they'll come back on, hopefully.
Yeah, here we go again.
I think you said the L word.
Yeah, so now I can't see my picture. Do you get visual on this?
I can hear you. I don't see visual.
Ain't that something? Wow. Let me try and see if I can work with this. You know? Damn.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Well, let me see what this says. Your browser has been disconnected from your camera. What the devil?
Sometimes I get that every now and then. Hopefully you could.
Yeah, but it's strange the way it comes in. Okay. There we go.
All right, excellent. Yeah, we won't be stopped. They can't stop the train. The train has left the station.
But you see, so
the Truth Express
sent this thing, 23 proud lesbians, and they talked about how they objected to working for a straight black male when there were so many nice gay black men. One of the women reiterated when we got over to Human Resources that she had been working for 35 years and never had to work for a straight black male, when all of the rest of the people she had worked with were such delightful gay black men. And I said, right there, you're violating my rights under Title VII. You're referring to one sexual practice type as man, and you're referring to me as a male and insulting me. I'm insulted. And the attorney for the corporation that was handling it said, Judge, you got something better to do? I said, I sure do. Bye. Where is he going? Well, you violated his Title VII rights. You discriminated against him based on his sex, black man, and his race, black man. You even said you resented the fact that he squinted at you and he has visual acuity problems sometimes. So that's Americans with Disabilities discrimination. And this is the star of a hit show. So what the devil is wrong with all of you? You have 2 weeks of EEO. So for the next 15 years, every single time I taped, I had to fence off these lesbians trying to stab me in the back. And I had a good brother, one of the only black sound men in all of Hollywood. He would sneak a judge. We have these IFBs, little hearing aid looking things, so you can hear what's going on. He said, Judge, I'm going to open some microphones. You ought to hear what they're doing. They're plotting on you. So you'd open the microphones. Yes, we're going to do this. And yes, he's going to have to rule this way for this woman, blah, 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 because the witness is up there in the front office and we're not going to bring her back there. So it's just going to be a mess. He's going to have to go along with what we want. And I'd say, excuse me, by the way, there's a witness, I'm told, it's up in the front office that needs to be brought back here. So this gentleman who needs that witness will have them. You see, that kind of thing. Or, you know, I had this point, man, really to show you how bad it was. Wells Fargo sent me this notice that because I had such good relationship with them, and I had 6 properties with separate mortgages, they would consolidate all the mortgages for a fixed rate of 0.87% or 6.7. That's astonishing, you know. And I said, okay, fine. So I filled out the application. Here comes the FBI. What in the devil? Well, you spoke falsely on this loan application, which is a federal crime. How did I do that? Well, you indicated that you had no pending legal action or against you now or at any time in the last 5 years. You've got 6 lawsuits naming you as a defendant. What? Well, nothing came of it from the FBI's angle, but the problem is these folk had intercepted service of process on 6 suits where people had sued the show and named me as a plaintiff and didn't even tell me. And then they're appearing in court and having some bozo lawyers state on the record with a transcript thereof that I got, where they were saying that I was treating it as a theatrical performance, so I didn't have to be accurate. Well, first off, the California Supreme Court, in a 23-page written opinion, which is 20 years old, had declared me to be a qualified arbitrator under California law, and everything that we did was according to California law. And if we did what these bozos were saying I did, then everybody could go to jail. So what I wound up doing is requiring that everybody in there prove to me that every single member of this large law firm attend these ethics classes so many hours per year for the next 4 years. They did. But you see, that kind of thing was being done on a regular basis. I mean, I had more state attorney general's office call me up about unauthorized practice of law to find out that they repeatedly opened up these websites in collaboration with firms that were offering legal forms. And they'd have a thing in there, type in your question, and the judge will personally answer. Okay, typical one that one state was really upset about. This guy said, I have a long driveway and my neighbor has 7 trees overhanging my driveway, and he won't clean up the leaves and debris, which causes me to have car problems. He leaves town all the time, but he won't take care of the business at hand. What should I do? Well, as a judge, I tell you, what you do is ask him politely, and when he's out of town, just have somebody come through and cut the trees down. Wow. I'd never give anything advice out like that to somebody. That would be stupid. I know it would be illegal because that person's not a client. I know that under the guise of my position at that particular time as an arbitrator, I would not be able to represent anyone, and I certainly wouldn't do it to someone sight unseen. So they were setting that up, and I'd have to show the district attorney, well, the attorney general for the state, that I'd sent a cease and desist order to them, and they still wouldn't stop this. So every day I had to deal with this kind of crap. So yeah, I got at war with them. It's like, if you fools want to go take me on and jack me up just because I'm a straight black man, then okay, I'll return the favor.
I mean,
so that's how the war started.
Wow.
And they claim that 9 out of every 10 people in Hollywood are LGBTQ charter members, so to speak. And if you go on their site, they list all these people that are practitioners.
Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.